Welcome to a new episode of Cheaters Always Cheat. Like, subscribe, and share to stay connected.
I'm currently employed as a pilot for a well-known company in the aviation industry. For the past 3 years, I've been happily married to my wife, Eva, who is now 30 years old. Our story began about 5 years ago at a company party. At that time, Eva was working in a senior executive role within the same company, but her work was more focused on corporate responsibilities in the back office. Our paths crossed several times at these company events, and after a few of these encounters, we started dating. Eva was an incredibly attractive woman, not just in terms of her physical appearance, but also in her confidence and intelligence. As a pilot, I'm often surrounded by good-looking people, but what really drew me to Eva was her intelligence. She had this unique ability to keep me grounded, both in a literal and metaphorical sense. Being in a relationship with a pilot like me isn't easy. Our work schedules are irregular, we often experience jet lag, and we're constantly dealing with exhaustion. But Eva was remarkably understanding of all these challenges. Most of my previous relationships were with either cabin crew members or ground staff, and they never lasted long. However, Eva brought a new sense of vitality to my life. Our connection grew over time, and after dating for 2 years, we decided to get married. But over the past 2 years, things have started to change. While I didn't expect married life to be as exciting as the dating phase, I still believed it should bring happiness. If not, then what's the point of being married? Over the last several months, I've noticed a change in Eva's behavior. It's possible that this change has been happening for a while, but I've only recently started noticing it. Eva is becoming a different person, going against all the qualities that initially attracted me to her. My job as a pilot is demanding, both physically and mentally, and it does impact my emotional well-being. However, Eva used to understand this. She knew that I couldn't always be available to her 24/7. There were times when she might have needed me urgently, but I couldn't be reached for many hours due to my work commitments. This is just a part of my profession. My previous relationships didn't last due to a lack of time and feelings of insecurity. Most of my breakups were a result of one or both of these issues. In most cases, I couldn't devote the expected amount of time to my partners, or they felt insecure about my interactions with attractive coworkers during my long and solitary flights. The reason my relationship with Eva succeeded was her lack of insecurity about me. However, as I mentioned earlier, she's changed. This transformation began about 4 months ago when I had to cover a colleague's shift on the day before Eva's birthday. I had taken 2 days off to spend quality time with her at a resort for her birthday. Regrettably, on the eve of her birthday, an unexpected family emergency forced my colleague to leave. I believe his daughter was sick, but I'm not entirely sure. This situation required me to step in and cover his shift. I apologized to Eva and explained that it was just for one night. I reassured her that I would be back the next morning, which was her actual birthday, and we could celebrate all day. She was noticeably upset. I tried to help her understand that this situation was beyond my control and I had no other choice. I asked her if she would prefer to stay at the resort alone for the night or if she would rather go home and we could return the next day. She chose to stay at the resort by herself. I left in the evening. It was a domestic flight, so I was back by morning. As soon as I landed, I called Eva immediately and told her I'd be at the resort in an hour. I did my best to explain why I wasn't there at night, but she wasn't pleased. She remained quiet and grumpy for most of the time, acting as if celebrating her birthday was a favor to me. I thought she had a right to be angry because of my sudden work commitment, but she remained irritated afterward. A week later, I asked her if she was still mad at me. She replied that she wasn't and that she had gotten used to me not being around. It was clearly sarcasm, something even a child could understand. I wanted to have a sincere conversation with her, but she dismissed it, saying it wouldn't help and that she would always have to make compromises. I'm not sure, but I thought she was trying to portray herself as the victim. Since then, I've noticed she has 2 main moods. One was just normal, where she wasn't happy, angry, sarcastic, or anything, just plain. The other was cranky, when she complained about everything related to me. We've had several arguments over the past months where we discussed our problems. I'm not perfect, she mentioned many times when I acted badly, but I admitted to it and promised to improve. However, when I tried to talk about my concerns, she got defensive and turned the situation around on me. She claimed I caused her to act in a foolish way, that I was the reason for her behaving badly. More often than not, I was left feeling surprised and confused after those conversations. I talked to a fellow pilot about whether he was dealing with a similar problem, as a big part of how we act is influenced by our job. I shared my situation with him while we were on the same flight. Regrettably, on the eve of her birthday, an unexpected family emergency forced my colleague to leave. I believe his daughter was sick, but I'm not entirely sure. This situation required me to step in and cover his shift. I apologized to Eva and explained that it was just for one night. I reassured her that I would be back the next morning, which was her actual birthday, and we could celebrate all day. She was noticeably upset. I tried to help her understand that this situation was beyond my control and I had no other choice. I asked her if she would prefer to stay at the resort alone for the night or if she would rather go home and we could return the next day. She chose to stay at the resort by herself. I left in the evening. It was a domestic flight, so I was back by morning. As soon as I landed, I called Eva immediately and told her I'd be at the resort in an hour. I did my best to explain why I wasn't there at night, but she wasn't pleased. She remained quiet and grumpy for most of the time, acting as if celebrating her birthday was a favor to me. I thought she had a right to be angry because of my sudden work commitment, but she remained irritated afterward. A week later, I asked her if she was still mad at me. She replied that she wasn't and that she had gotten used to me not being around. It was clearly sarcasm, something even a child could understand. I wanted to have a sincere conversation with her, but she dismissed it, saying it wouldn't help and that she would always have to make compromises. I'm not sure, but I thought she was trying to portray herself as the victim. Since then, I've noticed she has two main moods. One was just normal, where she wasn't happy, angry, sarcastic, or anything, just plain. The other was cranky, when she complained about everything related to me. We've had several arguments over the past months where we discussed our problems. I'm not perfect, she mentioned many times when I acted badly, but I admitted to it and promised to improve. However, when I tried to talk about my concerns, she got defensive and turned the situation around on me. She claimed I caused her to act in a foolish way, that I was the reason for her behaving badly. More often than not, I was left feeling surprised and confused after those conversations. I talked to a fellow pilot about whether he was dealing with a similar problem, as a big part of how we act is influenced by our job. I shared my situation with him while we were on the same flight. He paid close attention and then chuckled out loud. Listening carefully, he began to laugh. He remarked, "Amazing, are all women the same?" I inquired for more details, and he told me that his spouse also grumbled about his lack of physical and emotional presence. He mentioned that it appears all wives tend to fault their husbands in the same manner. I don't wish to offend anyone, but I honestly believe not every woman is egotistical. Following my conversation with my coworker, I attempted to overlook the issue, expecting my wife's emotional fluctuations to be short-lived and disappear. However, they persisted. At present, a fresh problem has arisen. Abruptly, she developed doubts concerning me. She shows suspicion each time I get a new hairstyle or purchase a unique fragrance. She repeatedly questions, "Who is it you're aiming to attract?" Initially, I assumed she was kidding, yet she genuinely appeared troubled by my self-care routines. I mean, she is aware that I am a pilot, thus I must appear well-groomed. I cannot simply wear sleepwear, I am not an author. When I share work anecdotes involving my coworkers, she immediately zeroes in on the names of the women. She inquires if I consider them appealing. This is beginning to annoy me. I have repeatedly assured her that I would never be unfaithful and that she is the only one I desire. I have explained all the reasons why nobody else could ever replace her. As I stated at the start of this narrative, that's the reason I noted Ava is changing from the individual I first fell for. I am uncertain about the direction of my marriage. If anyone has experienced something alike, kindly offer some guidance. Update 1. In September, I mentioned that my spouse Eva appears to be transforming into a different individual compared to earlier. She was once empathetic and self-assured, but now she is turning more judgmental and insecure. This troubled me since a similar problem caused the breakup of my past relationship. Many of you proposed that perhaps I was at fault, given that the recurring element in my breakups was me, thus it was probably my mistake. Therefore, I took this seriously and attempted to rectify things from my end. I endeavored to be mindful and emotionally available when at home. I attended to her needs in all aspects to ensure her happiness and comfort. She acknowledged that I was not providing any cause for her complaints. Our anniversary is approaching tomorrow, and I have been preparing for it for several months. I wish to compensate for the troubles we faced during her birthday. I organized a week-long leave from work and notified my supervisor that I would be unavailable for any work-related emergencies during this period as I will be abroad. Nevertheless, I have not disclosed this to Eva. I have planned a surprise for her. In fact, I did not bring up our impending anniversary whatsoever. I acted as if I had completely forgotten it. The plan was for me to leave for work in the evening as usual on our anniversary, which is today. As per my timetable, I was slated for the night shift this month, thus simplifying the execution of the plan. I departed in the evening intending to come back around midnight to surprise her and then embark on a week-long holiday with her. Given her back-office job, it would not be an issue for her to take an emergency week-long leave. She has taken similar leaves previously, so I was confident she could handle it. In the last month, I have been buying her clothes and other items necessary for the vacation. I also purchased a single-stud diamond necklace as a present for her. I am extremely thrilled, but I have kept everything under wraps. Conversely, Eva has been behaving irritable and odd as the anniversary approached. While she assumed I had overlooked it, I continued to envision how delighted and astonished she would be upon discovering my plan. This evening, I dressed up and left home at my regular time. Eva was at home when I left, and she appeared quite upset but remained silent. I inquired if she was okay, and she merely nodded without a smile. Inside my mind, I was laughing and wondering how she would react if I had actually forgotten our anniversary. I went to a shopping mall to buy some extra toiletries for our trip. Right now, I'm wandering around the mall to kill some time so I can go back home around midnight. I bought some flowers, cupcakes, candles, and any other cute things I found in the stores. It's only 9 p.m., so I still have a few hours to go. I'm using this time to update everyone on this post. I'll let you all know how she reacts later. Wish me luck. Earlier, back in September, I shared that my wife's behavior toward me was changing. Someone suggested that it might be my fault, considering my past girlfriends had similar complaints. So, I worked on improving myself and planned a fun surprise vacation for our anniversary. I talked about this in November, just a day before our anniversary. I provided a link if anyone wanted to read the full story. As planned, I left the mall around 10:30 p.m. When I got home, I used my key to quietly enter the house and surprise Eva. I could hear her talking to someone in the living room as I came in. I assumed she was on the phone, possibly complaining about me forgetting her birthday. When I went into the room to surprise her with cakes and flowers, I found her completely undressed. Yes, I was beyond shocked and stunned, and she seemed just as surprised. For a moment, I thought she had found out about my plan and had set up a surprise of her own. I was almost about to laugh and admit she got me when a man walked out of the bathroom, also undressed. Everything happened very quickly, and none of us had a chance to say anything. I dropped everything I was holding, confronted the man, and demanded to know who he was. She tried to get in between us and ran to his side. I gritted my teeth and gave her a look filled with anger. Honestly, I wanted to confront her more, but the man was right in front of me, so I grabbed him. I'm relieved that I didn't confront her harshly because that would have led to a very different situation. I don't think she would have been able to handle that. I was furious and couldn't control myself. The guy managed to free himself and gave Eva a look as if she should have made sure everything was ready before I came in. I wanted to hit him because of that look, but Eva held on to my hand. The man grabbed his clothes and left the house, getting dressed as he went. Meanwhile, I shouted loudly, asking Eva who he was. She pleaded with me, saying she would explain and asking me to let the guy leave. I chased after the guy, trying to make him stop and answer my question about who he was. He turned around and yelled at me, "I came here because your wife paid my agency. I'm not here for anything else, okay?" I turned back to Eva and asked if what he said was true. She held my hand, crying, and admitted that she had hired an escort service because she felt lonely. She thought I had forgotten our anniversary and, in a moment of anger, wanted to hurt me like I had hurt her by forgetting her birthday. She told me that I hadn't been giving her enough time and attention, which she desperately needed from me. I had been focusing on my work and was emotionally distant. I asked her when all of this had started. She explained that while she had thought about it during angry and lonely times, this was the first time she had actually gone through with hiring someone. She expressed that she felt completely broken and overwhelmed by how I acted on that particular day. She wanted to clear her mind and argued that, technically, she hadn't been unfaithful to me because I arrived before anything could happen. Although I am not certain if anything had already occurred, based on the condition of the bedroom, it seemed like nothing had taken place yet. It has been a week since that day, but I am still having difficulty accepting that my wife was almost unfaithful. She promised me that she wouldn't do it again. Sadly, the anniversary was ruined no matter what. I was feeling so depressed that I didn't even cancel the reservations. In the morning, the airline called because I had checked in online but didn't show up for the flight. I canceled the hotel bookings and then stayed locked in the bedroom nearly all day, drinking until I passed out. I don't know what she did that day, and I didn't bother to find out. However, I do know she was at home because she occasionally knocked on the door, pleading and begging. I felt like I couldn't breathe if I stayed in that room any longer, so in the evening, I contacted my boss and told him that my vacation plans had somehow been cancelled, and I wanted to cancel my time off. He changed my schedule, and I went back to work the next day. I needed to clear my mind before making any decisions. I know she didn't actually cheat, but she came very close to it. But what if I truly forgot about it? Does that make her potential cheating not matter? I'm not sure. She has been pleading for one last chance and promising to do everything to fix our marriage. Honestly, I still love her and don't want to lose her. However, I am too hurt to forgive and move forward. I haven't talked about this with my coworkers or friends because they know Eva, and I don't want to damage her reputation. I would really appreciate a new perspective on this situation. Update. Hello, I'm providing this update to help others who might be in a similar situation. I've included a link to my original post below. That incident affected me so deeply that I felt the need to seek therapy. Eva wanted to join me, so we decided to try couples therapy. I barely spoke to her after that night, and I thought couples therapy might be more effective. Unfortunately, our first therapy session was scheduled for 2 weeks after we signed up, which only made me more frustrated. My boss and coworkers quickly noticed that I wasn't myself and suggested I take some time off. Since pilots are responsible for the passengers' lives on a plane, they can't rely on someone with a troubled and confused mind for such critical work. Taking a break seemed like a good idea to me. I went to my family's old home in the countryside, where my distant uncle lived alone after my grandparents passed away. It was the perfect place for me to clear my thoughts. When I was leaving with my packed bags, Eva held my hand and asked where I was going. I just paid no attention to her and didn't say a word. I came back home on the day we had our therapy appointment. Being surrounded by nature for those 15 days and our first therapy session did help a bit. The therapist suggested that we live apart for a while because Ava's presence only made me more angry and stopped any progress. Ava complained that she had nowhere else to go except her parents' house, which she didn't want to do because she didn't want her parents to find out that our marriage was in trouble. She insisted that I should be the one to move out since I was the one who wanted to get away from her and the negativity she brought. So, I rented a room in a shared living space. At our next therapy session, I was clearer in my thoughts, but Ava was very upset. She told me that being alone was breaking her mentally and asked me to come back. I wasn't ready, so I refused. She promised to fix things and improve our relationship, but I held back. The counselor asked Ava about her feelings. Ava said she felt lost when she was alone. She always needed someone around, which is why she never stayed by herself. The counselor then asked if I would consider moving back in with her. I stood firm and said I needed more personal space. At this point, Ava got very angry and said she felt I was always stubborn and only thought about myself. In her anger, she admitted that once on her birthday, when I had to rush to work, she felt unimportant to me. That's why she ended up spending time with a guy who was staying in a nearby room. From that day on, she decided to focus on her own happiness just like I did. She began having many one-night stands, both paid and unpaid. When the therapist asked if she felt bad about it, she said at first she did, but then she would remember how I did things my way, and she felt she deserved the same. When the therapist asked if this made her happy, she said it didn't necessarily make her happy, but it did make her feel less alone. She also thought that because I worked with many attractive women, I might be cheating too. That, I believe, is when her insecurities started. I was initially furious with her confession, but I calmed down as the therapist talked to her. I sat there quietly, feeling a bit sorry for her. Deep down, I wasn't sure if she was truly depressed or just using that as an excuse for her actions. After she finished speaking, I told her that I wanted to break up. I couldn't be with someone who cheated, no matter the reason. Just because some jobs are more demanding than a regular 9-to-5 doesn't mean the other person should cheat. If that were true, every wife of a soldier, sailor, or naval officer would do the same. When Ava heard my decision, she was devastated and begged for another chance, promising she'd do anything to save our marriage. But I couldn't get past it. It might sound harsh, but I can't be with someone who betrayed me, especially when she tried to suggest I might have done the same. After the session, I contacted her parents because she was extremely upset and not accepting my decision. I told her I wouldn't tell everyone the real reason we were splitting up. That was the most I could do for her. Her parents arrived quickly, and I told them we were breaking up because my job hours didn't mesh well with our relationship. They were shocked since they thought we were happy together. Seeing Eva so distressed, her parents guessed she might disagree with my explanation. When her dad asked if she was okay with what I said, she unexpectedly said no. She expressed a desire to stay together and work things out. I was shocked, and her parents looked surprised too. They mentioned that staying married was a decision they both supported. When she insisted on staying married, I explained that her issue with my work hours made it clear we couldn't resolve this until I retired. They suggested I change careers or take a different job. Honestly, I might have considered it if we had discussed this before she cheated, but now I couldn't leave my profession just because of her infidelity. I had no choice but to be truthful with them. Her father got anxious and accused me of making up the story to get rid of his daughter. I stressed that Eva needed to speak up, or I would have to take legal action and involve the therapist. Eventually, she admitted it, but as usual, she blamed me, saying my selfishness and emotional distance forced her to cheat. Her father told her mother to pack Eva's things but said nothing to me. Eva begged her dad to convince me, but he didn't change his stance. The next day, I started the divorce process, which is still ongoing. I'm sharing this to raise awareness about the challenges faced by people with demanding jobs. Second story. I entered into matrimony with my first spouse, Olivia, at the age of 24. We were both young when affection blossomed between us. Initially, I believed she epitomized the ideal partner for me, but I soon discovered my error. Though there was a time when our love seemed profound, she swiftly departed for a prosperous businessman, revealing her true motives. The precise moment I first laid eyes on Olivia eludes my memory. We hailed from the same small town and attended the same high school, yet we moved in different social circles. While she was regarded as one of the most attractive girls in our school, on the other hand, was merely a nerdy kid. It never crossed my mind that I could ever capture her attention. Skipping ahead a few years after completing university, I returned to our small hometown. Prepared to embark on a career at the veterinary clinic, I settled into a new condominium. Though transitioning from a bustling city to a quiet town was a significant change, I eagerly sought to reconnect with old acquaintances and be close to my family once more. Several evenings after moving into my condo, I ventured to a downtown bar to catch up with old pals. Offering to buy drinks for everyone, I approached the bar. As I drew near, something about the bartender's appearance struck me as strikingly familiar. It took me a moment to recognize her. The stunning girl I once glimpsed in the high school corridors had blossomed into a woman. "What can I get you, hon?" she asked. I cannot deny my reaction. My heart raced, and a surge of nervousness washed over me. In that instant, I regressed to my awkward teenage self. Standing there, utterly bewildered, my face betrayed total confusion. Though it may have lasted only a few seconds, it felt like an eternity. Attempting to speak, all that escaped my lips was a clumsy utterance. What? I felt like the biggest fool on the planet. For the past 4 years, I had confidently mingled with women in the city, yet here I stood, a bundle of nerves. However, there was something about Olivia that consistently induced anxiety in me. "Did you attend Westbrook High?" Olivia inquired while pouring drinks. I was completely taken aback. All this time, I believed she never noticed me. As the evening progressed, I eagerly treated the group to rounds of drinks, seizing any opportunity to strike up a conversation with Olivia. Reuniting with friends after so long, none of us wanted the night to end. Besides my friends, there was another reason I was in no hurry to leave the bar, Olivia. I'm not sure if it was the alcohol or if Olivia turned out to be more approachable than I initially thought, but as the night wore on, I felt increasingly at ease chatting with her. Before the bar closed, she asked for my phone and saved her number. Over the next year, things went smoothly. The veterinary clinic where I worked extended its hours, and I was earning well. Approved for a mortgage, I was on the brink of moving into my first house. Following that night at the bar, Olivia and I began dating. On our first date, I knew she was the one I wanted to spend my life with. I proposed just 5 months into the relationship, and she accepted. Within a year, we were married. Despite concerns from friends and family about the pace of our relationship, I paid them no mind. Initially, our marriage felt like a fairy tale. I earned enough to support us both, and though not wealthy, we managed. Olivia eventually left her bartending job to pursue art. Although her artistic endeavors didn't go as planned, she occasionally bartended part-time during busy seasons. Things were going smoothly until Olivia's former boss contacted her for a significant corporate event. Initially, I didn't think much of it, but as weeks passed, I grew uneasy. Olivia began working late into the night, often returning home in the early hours. This became increasingly concerning as time went on. Glancing at my phone, I noticed a message from her. She explained that the corporate event was in its final night, and the attendees were staying late due to the significant investments being discussed. Uncertain of when she would finish, I accepted it as a one-time situation, considering the event's importance. However, as time passed, her schedule began to raise suspicions. My usual departure time for work was 8 a.m., and often she wasn't home by then. Upon my return home, I would find she had already left, sometimes leading to days without seeing her. When I asked her when she'd return, she mentioned 9 a.m. But upon reviewing my house's CCTV footage, I noticed she typically arrived around noon, appearing unfatigued. Moreover, bars typically don't operate during the day, especially retaining night shift employees. Though I had always been a trusting husband, something felt off. In the 4th week, I decided to adjust my schedule, leaving for work at 9 a.m., but she still wasn't home. To address my concerns, I decided to visit the hotel where she was staying. This hotel was a high-end 5-star establishment hosting the business summit. Olivia's company handled the bar and bartending services for the event. Along the way, I picked up her favorite berry smoothie and a fresh croissant, intending to drop them off for her at the bar. Upon my arrival, I found the bar closed, with locked doors, dim lights, and an eerie silence enveloping it. Approaching the hotel reception, I inquired about the bar's operating hours. The receptionist gave me a strange look, considering it was 10 a.m. She informed me that the bar closes sharply at 1 a.m. Confused, I questioned if the bar might be open all night due to the ongoing business summit, but my inquiry was promptly dismissed. This incident only added weight to the nagging feeling I had been experiencing. I was reluctant to accept it, but I couldn't shake the suspicion. Messaging Olivia about her whereabouts, she claimed to be at the bar. In response, I sent her a photo of me standing in front of the closed bar, hoping for an explanation. Encouraging her to come out and discuss matters, I asked Olivia if she'd be back home soon due to her work obligations. Even though I had to head to work, my thoughts were preoccupied with what was going on. I advised Olivia not to leave home until we had a proper chat. After wrapping up my work duties, I rushed back home, noticing Olivia's car parked outside, which hinted that something significant might be happening. Stepping into the house, I immediately sensed a change in the atmosphere, despite not usually paying much attention to details. Olivia sat at the kitchen table looking tense and uneasy, her expression hinting at something she hadn't revealed yet. My eyes fell upon the 3 packed suitcases nearby, and although Olivia initially stayed silent, her demeanor added to my growing unease. Every passing moment felt excruciatingly long as I waited for her to speak up. When I finally asked about the suitcases, Olivia burst into tears. She explained that she had an opportunity she couldn't pass up and was leaving to pursue her dream. Her voice trembled as she spoke, and she avoided making eye contact, which made me question the truthfulness of her words. As she continued to speak, frustration overwhelmed me, and I slammed my hand on the table, demanding honesty. It was the first time in our 2-year marriage that I had raised my voice to Olivia. Dealing with deception can bring out the worst in anyone. Eventually, she confessed, and I almost regretted asking because the revelation still haunts me to this day. My wife was leaving me for a wealthy businessman she met at the bar. 5 years have passed since then, and although that period was tough, the specific details are not important anymore. I sold our house and moved to a better neighborhood, finding happiness with my new wife, Cara. Olivia is now just a distant memory, but her recent urgent message has left me feeling torn. I don't want her back in my life, yet I can't help but be curious about what she has to say. Update: Cara and I have welcomed our baby boy into the world and are adjusting to parenthood. Taking some advice into consideration, I decided to meet Olivia. Arriving at the coffee shop, I found her waiting for me in a booth, ready to talk. She greeted me with a smile, and for a moment, I pondered if there was truth in what some of you had suggested. Perhaps she genuinely sought reconciliation. Initially, she kept things light, engaging in casual chatter as if reconnecting after years of silence. However, subtle signs suggested otherwise. Her attempts to get closer or touch my hand hinted at her ulterior motives. I tried to maintain a distance and shrugged off her advances, but it was evident she harbored hopes of winning me back. I firmly reiterated the importance of respecting boundaries, causing her face to flush with embarrassment. Despite her claims of missing me, I knew better. She had swiftly abandoned our marriage at the first sight of wealth, and for 5 years, not once did she reach out. Calling her out on her charade, I demanded the truth behind her urgent meeting request. Tears welled up in her eyes, but unlike before, I felt no sympathy. Her pain was just a fraction of what she had inflicted on me by leaving. Acknowledging her betrayal, she admitted her guilt, yet I couldn't shake off a lingering concern for her well-being. Curiosity drove me to inquire about her motives, and to my surprise, she asked for a loan of $5,000. Her millionaire boyfriend had discarded her, leaving her with nothing. It seemed karma had finally caught up with her. Reflecting on our past, I realized how blind I had been to her true intentions. She had never noticed me until she overheard details of my promising job and income at the bar. Despite my initial reluctance, I entertained her request, hoping for some explanation. She shared her current struggles, including her unawareness of her parents' change in circumstances and her aspirations as an artist. However, her lack of effort in pursuing her artistic interests during our marriage raised doubts. Declining her request, I remained firm despite her attempts to negotiate. Her concerns about accommodation and employment didn't sway me. Reminding her of my past support, I saw a shift in her demeanor, from helpless to manipulative. Her mention of owed money during our divorce marked the final straw. Blocking her on social media, I pondered the possibility of legal repercussions. Life continued, and despite her words, she took no further action. Proceeding with caution, I sought guidance from a legal expert. A friend's sibling, employed at a law office, provided insights. In our state, seeking post-divorce alimony is not viable. Even with legal counsel, her case lacked merit, and her financial situation couldn't support a legal dispute. While she made an attempt, she won't deceive me again. Blocking her phone number and social media accounts was necessary. Residing in a small town, avoiding hearing about someone is difficult, but fortunately, she's relocated upstate, reducing her impact on my life. We're gearing up for a summer getaway, Kara and I. Taking some time off in August, we've chartered an RV expedition around the state, exploring various campgrounds. Despite the challenges of traveling with a baby, we're eager about the journey. It's remarkable to see the engagement in this narrative. Many of you appear to relate to dealing with someone akin to Olivia. While I believed I was finished sharing updates, something intriguing unfolded that I wish to relay. During our road journey, we halted at a roadside diner. It didn't boast extravagance, but hunger rendered us less discerning. While I was in the lavatory, I overheard a familiar voice, Olivia's. She was apologizing to the manager for her lapses. Bearing witness to her facing consequences was unforeseen yet gratifying. I refrained from confrontation, but her superior seemed flustered by the situation. He extended an apology to us and proffered a complimentary dessert. It was a modest diner, and observing Olivia confronting repercussions made the episode worthwhile. This might mark the final chapter of the Olivia saga for me. Presently, my focus is directed toward my family and career, while it appears she's encountering the repercussions she deserved.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click on the little bell icon for notifications of new stories.